and the railway was closed too. Order. They tried to be brave and cheerful, but no one really thought mountains far away. The days went by and the search grew harder, but the rescuers wouldn't give up. Said, but there was still no. Skarloey and Rheneas. The engines know every. A big surprise awaited Edward. Skarloey was pleased to see Edward. "I've been sent here for a rest," he sighed. "I was put in this shed suddenly, but I do miss Rheneas. He's going to be mended." Line. "Oh, it is. You've cheered me up, Edward. Goodbye." Sadly to the shed. "What about me, sir?" "I'll try," said the old engine. "I'm ashamed of you," scolded Skarloey. "You might have hurt your passengers." The coaches quivered. "We're sorry," and their journey began. Skarloey remembered all the gates and stiles where he had to stop. The sun shone, the rails were dry. "This is lovely," sang Skarloey. Presently, the line grew steep. Skarloey felt short of steam. "Take your time," soothed his driver. "It'll be better downhill," Skarloey. But it wasn't. His springs were weak, and the rail joints jarred his wheels. At last, a spring gave way. "I feel all crooked," cried Skarloey. "We'll need a bus now for our passengers," sighed his driver. "No," pleaded Skarloey. "I'll get them to the station or burst." Clanging and clanking, Skarloey steamed in. "I'll do it! I'll do it! I've done it!" Everyone was pleased with Skarloey, but he was still worried. "Old engines can't pull trains like the young ones can. You deserve it." Skarloey and Rheneas work on the railway that weaves round lakes. Their drivers understood this, and they spoke kindly to them. Skarloey and Rheneas were pleased with this news and promised to give the new engines a big welcome. When Sir Handel and Peter Sam arrived, they found they had much to learn. Rubbish. "Skarloey, he's famous." Skarloey felt sorry for Peter Sam. When Sir Handel crawled home, he found Sir Topham Hatt waiting for him. He was very excited, and the fireman found him aboard. "All respectable engines do," replied Skarloey. "Keep calm, Peter Sam, and you'll do well." But Peter Sam was in such a state that he couldn't listen. Skarloey had been to the works to be mended. He felt much better. Rusty the Diesel was helping him off his rail car. Skarloey hadn't met the little diesel before. "Rusty seems a kindly sort of engine," he thought to himself. "I help to mend the line and do odd jobs," explained Rusty. "I hear everyone is looking forward to seeing you again. Come on." The surprise was Skarloey. "Oh," said Peter Sam, "I'm glad you've come home." They lit Skarloey's fire, and he sizzled happily. "I feel all excited," he said, "just like a young engine. Now tell me all the news." "I see you've met Rusty," said Peter Sam. "Yes, I like that diesel. So do I, replied Peter Sam. It's a pity Duncan doesn't. Who is Duncan? He came as a spare engine after my accident, replied Peter Sam. Is he useful? Drivers call it rock and roll. I understand, said Skarloey gravely. His driver interrupted. Skarloey was pleased. He wanted to run and looked forward to meeting Duncan. They found the caboose and some workmen and hurried up the line. How nice and smooth the rails are, thought Skarloey. They've met bumps. The little diesel has helped to do that. What a difference Rusty's made to the line. At last, Skarloey was able to push Duncan and his coaches safely through. The caboose was left on the siding, and the workmen Duncan grumbled all the way home, but Skarloey paid no attention. Later, Sir Topham Hatt spoke severely to Duncan. Skarloey, the little engine, loves all the sights and sounds along his line and knows them very well. One morning, soon after he returned from being mended, he was enjoying his journey. Along the way, he met Rusty. You know, he said, if I couldn't see these familiar faces and places, I'd think I was on a different railway. You've done wonders with these rails. Rusty laughed. I'm glad you're pleased. Manager said, let's mend the track so well that he won't know where he is. And we did. And you didn't, if you take my meaning. Skarloey liked this hard-working diesel. There's still one bad bit, warned Rusty, just before the first station. An engine might come off there, particularly Duncan. He will rock and roll along the line. Speak up! Rusty warned Duncan about the bad bit of rail. Huh! I know my way about. I don't need smelly diesels to tell me what to do. Rusty felt hurt. I warned him, said Rusty. But all he did was call me names. I'm ashamed of you, Rusty, said Skarloey. Passengers, what are they going to do? We must help the passengers. And Rusty roared into life. My funnel feels wobbly. I wish manager would hurry up with my new one. He says it will be something special. You and your special funnel, laughed the other engines. They were fond of Peter Sam, but his special funnel had become quite wired to his boiler. The other end, Peter Sam said again and again, his new funnel will rain. The teasing continued until at last. I feel stronger than ever before, he hummed. Even Sir Handel was impressed. I can't understand. The engines don't laugh at Peter Sam's funnel. They wish they had one like it. Look at his steamroller wheels, they joked. Did you hear that? Huffed Sir Handel. Skarloey had a plan to make Sir Handel see sense. With your grand wheels, Sir Handel, said Skarloey, you're just the engine to tackle George. That steam will run for his money. He talked of nothing but steamrollers. Oh dear, whispered Skarloey. He's worse than ever. I'm sorry my plan was no good. Never mind, said Rusty. We'll think of something else. But they had no need to do that. Some boys arrived instead. He tried to race a steamroller, but the steamroller nearly beat him. Sir Handel never mentioned steamrollers now. With some polish and a rag. Skarloey was snoozing happily, but Nancy wanted to talk. Wake up, lazy bones. Your brass is filthy. Aren't you ashamed? No, yawned Skarloey. You're just an old fusspot. And Skarloey closed his eyes. He was thinking about his friend Rheneas and all the good times they had shared before Rheneas went away to be mended. Comes home? Skarloey wasn't sleepy anymore. What? No, she said. Nancy, stop! Do I really look nice? Please polish me again, laughed Nancy and set to work once more. Duncan was jealous. Aren't you going to polish me, lady, this afternoon? We must get the ice cream ready for the passenger. But Duncan did mind. It isn't fair, he complained. Peter Sam gets a special funnel, Sir Handel gets special wheels, passengers get ice cream, but I'm not even polished. Skarloey had to haul Duncan and his train all the way to the platform. The passengers were furious. They told... That night, Sir Topham Hatt spoke to Duncan. I'm ashamed of you, Duncan, said Skarloey. Thank goodness Rheneas is coming home soon. Perhaps he'll teach you some sense before it's too late. Rheneas saved our railway, replied Skarloey. Sam. Well, began Skarloey, Rheneas and I had to keep the trains running, or our... I tried hard, continued Skarloey, but my old wheels ached. Rheneas understood. It's my turn now. Passengers, continued Skarloey, get cross if you stop at the wrong places. Rheneas stopped in the wrong place once, and this is what happened. And, smiled Skarloey, Rheneas always was ready for tomorrow. Passengers are important after all. The next day, Rheneas came home. All the engines were there to greet him, siding where he was lifted onto his rails. This was the signal for a chorus of whistles. Was the happiest of all. You know, he whispered to Skarloey, this helps a little engine to feel that at last he has really come home.
One day, George the steamroller was waiting to Rheneas and Skarloey. You need rocks for your roads, replied Skarloey, and we're helping you. Then Percy arrived to take George away. He was still rebelling. Railways are no good. Turnips. The little engines were pleased to see him go. And the mine. If there are any ghosts here, they certainly help to make the place very happy. The little engines were busy clearing their... Meanwhile, Skarloey was making his way up to the quarry. Help! Catching up fast. We must warn the yards, shouted Skarloey. Yes, but how? Called Rusty. Skarloey was working the line to the slate mine in the mountains. When the snow came, one day Skarloey set off to the mines with some empty cars. Skarloey had reached the ravine. High above him were the mine yards. I'll set off an emergency cap and see what happens. Skarloey watched as then they ran over the cap. The bang echoed around the gorge. Nothing happened. Good, said his driver. All's well. We'll have a cup of cocoa and then make our way. Skarloey and his driver heard the noise and looked up. Avalanche! They glue. They cleared away the ice, only to find Skarloey's driver and fireman drinking cocoa. Rusty, Rheneas, and Skarloey chugged cheerfully through the Sodor countryside. Helped Duncan with an important job at the incline railway. They liked the clever way Rusty hoped Duncan would stay out of trouble today, but he was already in too much of a hurry. Beamed. Bossy boots, chuffed Rheneas. Pushy puffer, huffed Skarloey. They didn't like Duncan. When Sir Topham Hatt arrived, he spoke severely. Said, "Your impatience has caused confusion and Sorry, Duncan said to Rusty, Rheneas, and Skarloey. Once you have been repaired, Sir Top, be patient and careful. Yes, sir, said Duncan. Rusty's best friends are Rheneas and Skarloey. Rheneas and Skarloey came to work at the quarry. They worked as hard as they could, but they missed the forests and hills. Most of all, they missed their quarry with important news. Elizabeth, the quarry truck, thought cleaning up the line was ridiculous. Skarloey was upset. She's right, he said. We'll never get it done in 2 weeks. The engines worked. The next day, Rusty had a very... Elizabeth was as good as her word. She hauled rubber... Inspected the line. He was very impressed. Rusty was proud. Rheneas and Skarloey were very happy. And Rusty just smiled. Duncan was waiting for Peter Sam, who was bringing some freight cars for him to take to Strawberry Grove back to the junction, as the headmaster played the organ. Whistled Skarloey. But Peter Sam, who had a You really did well to deliver your goods without a whistle, he said. Absolutely, said Peter Sam, even though an engine's not an engine without... And all the engines tooted back.
They love to puff through the forests and over the rivers. Damaged by the storm. Skarloey chuffed happily along. He didn't see the broken rail until it was too late. He dangled. Help! But Rheneas soon pulled him to safety. A few days later, Sir Topham Hatt came to the shed.
Skarloey, I need you to collect them.
Yes, sir, chuffed Skarloey. He didn't want to go on the bridge again. When Skarloey arrived, he started to cross, but stopped. He looked down into the... Skarloey was scared. He remembered what had happened before. "Come on, Skarloey," called his driver. "The bridge is safe now." But Skarloey wouldn't cross the bridge, and he and his driver went home instead.
Topham Hatt will be cross.
Finally, Sir Topham Hatt came to see Skarloey. "You must stay here and shun freight cars, as they're told." "Sorry, sir," said Skarloey sadly. "Just spread the news." "We must go help him," said Skarloey bravely. He set off immediately. Skarloey was scared, but determined. He rolled slowly up to the edge. The bridge creaked loudly. "Must rescue my friend," whispered Skarloey. He chuffed slowly onto the bridge. The bridge groaned as he rolled forward, but Skarloey and on. And finally, his driver coupled up and pulled Rheneas to safety. Skarloey is no longer a... and he loves his journeys more than ever. Balloon rides in the country. The engines were busy taking freight cars full of slate from the quarry.
We've shunted every freight car in the quarry today,
wheezed Skarloey, talking excitedly about the storm. Except Peter Sam. He was thinking about the refreshment lady's stand. The next morning, Sir Topham Hatt came to the sheds, hurried away. At last, he thought he could be really useful. One day, Sir Topham Hatt came to see Rheneas.
An important job, cried Rheneas. Oh, thank you, sir. Yes, sir,
said Rheneas, but he was worried. He was. The engines on the island of Sodor were excited. A new park was being built.
You're so slow, I'll finish first.
Duncan boasted to Skarloey. Skarloey was cross. A little later, he met Rusty at the new park station.
Duncan thinks he's fast,
Skarloey steamed.
but he's just a bossy boiler.
Duncan was repaired in time for the opening of Elephant Park. He was very surprised.
Hey, for Duncan's mistake,
Cheered the engines. The engines on the mountain railway were helping to build a new line. Just then, Skarloey chugged in. You're late for really useful engines are never late. I'm sorry, sir. But Skarloey was upset.
All this extra work is going to make me late again.
Down the track, the workmen were still loading their ladders.
Hurry up! Hurry up! Skarloey puffed.
Again. At last, Skarloey was on his way.
The balloon's going to land in the tree,
Cried Skarloey. Right in front of Skarloey.
There's the Topham Hatt.
Don't worry, called Skarloey's driver. We'll soon have you down.
Thank you, sir.
We're safely on the ground. They boarded Skarloey's boxcar and set off at once. Everyone was waiting as Skarloey brought his important passengers to the grand opening. Sir Topham Hatt declared the new line open. Everyone cheered. I know, said Skarloey, but because I was late, Sir Topham Hatt was right on time. The engines were waiting for their coal when and he puffed crossly away. He didn't even wait for his coal. But when he arrived at the coal bunker, it was empty. On the other side of the old wooden bridge, but you can't cross. Rusty says it's not safe.
Rusty always makes things sound worse than they are.
His driver. Laps. Rusty, called Skarloey. Duncan's gone across the bridge. Sir Topham Hatt was cross with Duncan.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. And Rusty, you were very brave.